Get moving over here. Okay, so we're already halfway done today's daf. Yeah. So we were discussing the sugya of an aguna, right? So we left off about the 2 dots, 7, 8 lines up from the bottom on Pei Ches Amud Aleph. So we're talking about that if she gets married, if the woman gets married with an Eid Echad or whatever it is, and then the husband comes meaning she gets remarried, then the husband comes marching in. So if it was Eid Echad, then she has to get divorced for both. Right? And then we said, but if it's 2 Eidim, then she doesn't have to get divorced from both. Fine. So now the Gemara continues with the sugya. So Teitze Mizeh Mizeh. Yeah, we ready? Okay. So Amar Rav. Yeah, see it? 3, 6 lines up from the bottom. Amar Rav. Lo Ishara Ela Shenisus Be'ed Echad. This that she has to get divorced from both husbands. That's if she got married with 1 Eid of them. This is Al Pishnei Eidim Lo Seitze. If she got married with 2 Eidim, then she doesn't have to leave. Now the Gemara is thinking now Lo Seitze from who? The first wife or the second wife? So first husband or second husband? So Rashi says from the second, right? Meaning she could stay married to the second. So that's what Rav was saying. So Machako Olev and Marova, they were laughing at Rav in Marova and Eretz Yisrael, they were laughing at him, right? Also, Gavra v'Koi v'At Amrit Lo Seitze. You have a man standing here, and he's her first husband, and he's saying that she doesn't have to get divorced from her second husband, right? So the one answers like Tzricha the Asu Beitrei. Now it's talking about where the 2 Adam came for Amri, meaning they didn't know what the husband looked like. It was a long time. He was always for many years. Nobody has any idea what he looks like, right? But 2 people came and said, "Anan Havinin Bahadei Yechinofik Vad Hashta." We were with him from when he left until what?
I think you skipped. Lo Tzricha.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right. I skipped from 1 to 2. Thank you. Lo Tzricha the Lo Yadin Lei. So we say, no, we're talking about what we don't know, right? Meaning we don't know who the man, we don't know who the husband is. We don't recognize him, right? So Gemara asks, we don't know him, so then why should she have to go out by Eid Echad, right? Because nobody knows what this guy looks like. So why should they have to get divorced, right? So like Tzricha would say, no, we're talking about the Asu Beit Treva Amri. 2 people came and said, Anan Avinu Ba'adei Michinofik Bad Hashta. I was with them from when they left until now. Ba'asan hu Delayadi Yisule, and you are the ones that don't know him. Tifsiv, how? Because Vayakar Yosef is Echa Behem like Yeru, right? The brothers recognized Yosef. I'm sorry, Yosef recognized the brothers. They didn't recognize him. Zakon. He went out without a beard, and he came back with a big beard. Right? So that's what they knew him. So therefore, I mean, they didn't recognize him. Right? So the same thing here. It's not pshat where they recognize the guy. Now we're dealing with 2 Eidim who are saying that this is the husband. So now what do you have? You have 2 Eidim against 2 Eidim, right? You have the 2 Eidim who said, oh, he died. And now you have 2 Eidim that said he's alive. That's him. So so Rav is saying, why should I believe one set of Eidim over the other set of Eidim? In the beginning, when Rav first said his thing, we thought the man himself came. Okay, so we said, well, how can you not get divorced? But that's not what happened now. Now what happened is you have 2 Eidim to say this is the guy. Okay, so now it's 2 Eidim against 2 Eidim. So it's a wash. So why should she have to leave her second husband? That's what the Gemara is thinking now. So the Gemara says, the Gemara asks, Trey Ninu. So it's 2 against 2. On Talmud Beis. So then there's something called an Asham Toli, which is an Asham.
We don't say 2 against 2 by Eidim Zaymimim.
No, the Eidim Zaymimim. The Edom Zayim, it's the two Edom are saying that they
That
put
you're
their
not
lives.
Edom. Okay, so they're saying you're not Edom. So these guys said they saw him die in a car crash. No, so
No, but if the two Edom would come and say that they saw him die in a car crash, they said those Edom were with us, right?
so you believe the Edom Zimmerman.
You're believing
Right.
the Edoms.
More you just had
no,
it, you're tiny, the Gemara's tiny is 2 against 2. So Edom Zimmerman is also 2 against 2. Well,
I hear what you're saying. But I think that maybe the difference is that by Edom Zayman, the Edom Zayman said a witness on that guy died in the car crash, right? These guys are testifying that the Edom Zayman weren't there. They're not having
right,
a
okay,
they're not,
fine.
I'm saying it's not the same. They're not fighting
I
on the same.
understand.
I
understand
guess
that.
so. I guess we have to wait.
Well, for Sanhedrin or with Marcus, where is Edom Zimmerman?
It's yeah, probably both, right? Yeah, it's with after Yevamos for this long, it's almost sounding enticing. Yevamos and Sanhedrin. Anyways, so the Gemara says, so good. We have 2 against 2. Bottom line is, it's a suffix. She's sleeping. He's sleeping with a suffix Ashes Ish. So he should have to bring a korban asham talui, which is a korban asham that says that has a built-in tamei, right? So I'm not meaning if you were Iver, you bring the asham. If you were an Iver, you didn't bring the asham. Again, we're talking about a shaygig here, so it's not like if Taka the guy was alive, it's not, they didn't do it amazing, right? So anyway, so how come they don't have to bring asham tali? Some of
The Meiser is bemazed.
The mice is amazing, but they didn't do it.
And they had a heter from Bezdin. They were, but whatever Meiser they did was amazing. Meiser.
The mice is amazing.
Bezdin told them they could do it.
Right. So it's the badzim, the shoygig, right? Yeah. Yeah. So okay, whatever it is. Oh, yeah. What are you saying?
I'm saying if you eat a Bezdin Haskin, this sandwich is a kosher sandwich, and then the Bezdin they said no, it wasn't kosher, it was treif. So what happens to me? What do I have to do? Do I have to do anything?
That's what we said. Bezdin, no, if they're doing it on the stock,
so here they got married. Bezdin told them to
no 2 Adams, no Bezdin. 2 Adam is no Bezdin. I mean, you could do it in Bezdin, but 2 Adam works even without Bezdin. We're talking about the case of 2 Adam here.
Okay, and there was no Bezdin involved.
There's no Bezdin. I mean, yeah. By 2 Adam, there's no Bezdin. By 1 Ad, there is Bezdin. Right?
Okay.
Fine. Anyways, so Gemara says, so Amar Rav Sheshes, this was Peretz is Muhammad to this last night. This is Lechem Meyadeh. She got married to one of the Adim, right? And he's a Vadai. He was a Vadai for himself. So since he's a Vadai for himself, right? Then it's fine. So he's not considered, to him, it's not even considered a suffix. Now, I don't know how he can go get married. Isn't there a negias? I don't understand that part. I didn't work too hard on it, but I mean, how do you let that happen? Unless it happens later.
I mean, you're saying that he's vadai not going to be mezana with an ashes ish?
No, he's vadai that he saw the husband die. So you can't say that it's a asham tali.
What makes him a vadai?
What?
What makes him that he's a vadai? Just because he married her?
No, because he claims I saw the guy die. He was one of the Adim.
Right, I understand. But in this case, you're saying where one of the Adim married her. So what changed between that and a different case if he didn't marry her?
What would be the case? No, because then Lamaisa, you don't know. Lamaisa, you're Masupik. No. Then the day you don't know. You don't know if the Adim were correct. Maybe they saw a different guy. Maybe they saw them maybe left. But the guy himself, if he got married, he's not Masupik. No?
All right, I was using it if he's Negea Bedover.
That part I don't understand. That part I don't understand. What's with the Negias? But I guess when he said the Eidos, he was never married. Then he got married only later. Okay. Anyways, so he gufa, but she should need he gufa b'asham tali kaima. She should need asham tali. So the Gemara answers by Meres Barili says where she says, I'm for sure that this guy is not my husband, right? Meaning Rashi says it's interesting. It's almost like with Yaakov and Leah. She said, how does she know for sure this guy's not the husband? She has some sort of simonim. I don't know what that means. Right? She had simonim from that. What's her husband and what's not her husband? Yeah. Hashem Tali is only if you're not sure, and she was 100% sure based on the simonim, and he didn't have the simonim.
Yeah, he had a scar under his armpit that she's the only person who ever saw it.
So that's on one. So does he have to strip down? I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't know. Okay. This is what it says. If that's the case, then what was the chiddush of Rav? Even Rav Menachem Rabbi Yosi, like Omar, we're going to see what he says in a minute. Like Omar, Edim. He only says that they have to get divorced when the Edim come. Meaning the Edim first came and then she got married. But if she got married, right, on the first Edim, because the first Edim said the husband died, then she got married. Then came another set of Edim to say that he's alive. Loy Omar, he didn't say you have to get divorced. The Tanya, what's this case? Two guys say she died. He died. And two said he didn't die. Or two said he divorced her. Two said they did not get divorced. She should not get married, right? Because it's a wash with the Edim. But if she did get married, she doesn't have to get divorced.
A wash doesn't keep the status quo that let's say they were married. You don't keep a wash doesn't means we're back to what they were before, what they were last week.
No, we're saying that she shouldn't get married, right? But if she did get married, then she doesn't have to get divorced, right?
Because that's the new status quo. Correct.
Yeah, but also because, well, I don't know if it's so much a new status quo. It's probably part of it, but it's more because, like we said, they're both vadai that she did get divorced, meaning probably it's somewhere where she married the Edim too. One of the Eid, not Edim, one of the Eid, right? And Mamelu, they're both vadai that I know. She says, I know I got divorced. Okay, so since she knows. We don't want her to in the first place. She did. But they have to get divorced. And then Omar Yosi, but he qualifies it. Amos, when do I say she has to go out? That's when Edim came and then she got married. But if she got married and then Edim came, she cannot go out. Right? She does not have to go out. So again, it depends. But meaning if she got married and then the Edim came, then it's not a problem. Yeah. So whatever it is, so then there's no chiddush of Rav. So the answer is Kikom Rav Nami Bismat Shabo Edim V'achakach Nisas. When did Rav say his din? That's when the Edim came and then she got married. And that's exactly what Rav is saying. He disagrees with Rav Menachem and Rav Yosi, and that if they got married, she shouldn't have gotten married. But if she got married, she does not have to get divorced. And some say time at the Nisas V'achakach Bo Edim. The reason it says just the opposite. The reason that she doesn't have to go out is because she got married and then came Edim. But if Edim came and then she got married, then she has to go out. Like Rav Nachman, Rav Yosi. Fine. So now, so Rav has an interesting question here on Rav. Because that if the kohen doesn't want to get divorced, let's say the kohen marries somebody he's not supposed to marry, so he has to get divorced. And let's say if he doesn't want to, so Dafnoi, we hit him, right? Rashi says we smack him, and the kitchu bal korchai, right? To make him back to kedusha by force. So how do you know that you force the kohen? You have to make him holy. Bal korchai means by force. So what's the case? What's the case when you're forcing the kohen out? Meaning, in this case, where the husband went overseas. So if we're talking about where she didn't marry one of the witnesses, right? Meaning she didn't marry the witness, she married a kohen instead. And then the Adam came and said the husband's still alive. But like Amran, she didn't say barili, and she didn't say that I'm definite. Do you have to say that you have to force him out? Of course you have to force him out. He's married to an Ashish ish. Must be talking about where the kohen was one of the witnesses, and she was married to the kohen. The Ka'amran, she said barili. The Katani, the funny, we still learn that you have to hit the kohen until he gets divorced. So we say, you see that you do take away the husband. So the Gemara answers, Isakun Ashani. A kohen is different. A kohen has to be holier. Since he's holier, since he has to get divorced. Biba is saying, or another answer, my Tefani be'edim. It doesn't mean to actually hit him. It means you go out and try and find Edim to taka prove what this guy's situation is. Biba is saying, or you could say a third teretz, this it's talking about where Adam came and then she got married. For Menachem Rav Yossi, and it's Rav Menachem Rav Yossi holds she has to get divorced. Okay, that's Rav's. That's whose pshat was it? I forgot already. Whose pshat and Rav was this? What wasn't
Sheshas?
no, Rav Sheshis is this coming up. Was it Rav Sheshis?
Gemara doesn't say. Rav asked, and the Gemara just
Doesn't
answered.
say. Yeah, there's no. Okay, so now Rav Ashi has a different shot. So again, we said that when Rav said that she does not have to go out of the marriage, it was talking about the second marriage. Rav Ashi says no. Rav Ashi, say to come Rav. When Rav says when Rav says you don't have to leave the marriage, they say to mehetera harisha. She does not have to go from her first husband, right? Because she was an Inus. Rashi says the reason why she can go back to her first husband is because she was an Inus. So I'm going to ask, Rav already said this once to Tanan, because we learned in the Mishnah, Nisa Shalei Rishus, if she got married without Rishus, which again means without Rishus means without Bezdin, because she has two Eidim. So Muteris Lachserloi, she can go back to her first husband. And Rav Huna B'Shem Rav said, this is the halacha. Right? So you see that he already said it once that you can go back. So what's he saying here? So one of them was said from a rule that he said that he figured out from something else that Rav said. So one of them is not really Rav. So Amar Shmuel, Loishanu. So Shmuel, right? So that's it. So then Shmuel has a different thing. Loishanu. When the Mishnah says that she has to go out from the marriage, it's a mouthful. Makhashtoi, right? Makhashtoi, right? That's the Gershon, that would be the way. That's only where she didn't fight him, right? Meaning she said, oh, yeah, it must be my husband. Avo, makhashtoi leiseitze. But if she says, you are not my husband, then she does not have to go out from the second husband. That's the way Shmuel understands the Mishnah. Right? Again, if she denies that this guy's her husband, she does not have to get divorced. So then when I asked, am I asking, what are we talking about? You were talking about there were two Adam there. Who cares if she says it's not true? Two witnesses outweigh what the woman says. Must be talking about Eid Echad. And time of the Makhashta, the reason is because she's fighting him. But if she'd be quiet, she'd have to go out. But what Ula said, wherever the Torah believed in Eid Echad, it's as if two people said the testimony, and when one person's words is not in the makom of two. So even if the woman agrees that, not agrees, but she doesn't fight that this man that came here is her husband, right? But the second Eidim shouldn't be believed according to against the first, because the first, even though it was Eid Echad, he's looked at like two Eidim. So my answer is, this one is a shtickle hard if anybody's having a hard time following. At least I think it's hard. It's talking about where the guys that came are really the apostle Eidus, right? Either they're kroivim, or Rashi says, or they're women. I don't know why he doesn't say gamblers. There must be a pshat in that. It goes according to Reb Nechemia. Anytime the Torah believes in Eid Echad, halach achar roiv deos, that you go after the majority of opinions. And they make two women against, you're fighting two women against one man with testimony, and we make it kishnei anashim b'ish echad, and we do it similar to two men who are going against one man, meaning, and the Eid Echad is not believed. That's one pshat. Whenever you have an Eid Echad who's kosher and he comes first, afilu me'an nashim ke'eid echad, even 100 women, don't say this over. Don't say this over, otherwise you're not going to eat over Yom Tov. Even 100 women don't come to one man, right? At least in testimony. I don't know, right? That's what he's saying.
Jesse, make it into a background. See what happens in your house.
Yeah. So, meaning, I don't think it means nashim per se, right? It just means that if we're believing in Eid Echad, then 100 men. It doesn't. I don't know why the Gemara really says women, because even 100 men, we're going to look at it.
100 men would be a problem. Then you'd have a real Aedis.
I mean, because
it doesn't mean women as opposed to men. Even Psulim, Aedis, the same thing. Yeah.
Right. But okay, because the next line. Okay, so then really, how come I asking is going to ask you Isha Meikara, right? So first Aedis was a woman. The Tartzel Reb Nechemia Hachi, and this is how we have to explain Reb Nechemia. Reb Nechemia Aimer Kol Makom Shemina Torah Eid Echad. Whenever the Torah believed the Eid Echad, Halach Achar Roiv Deis, then go with the majority. Also, Shtei Nashim Be'isha Achas, and you have to make two women say Eidus against one woman. Kishnei Nashim Be'ish Echad, meaning the same way we're going to have two men against one man. Aval Shtei Nashim Be'ish Echad, but if you have two women against one man, that's considered split, right? Again, you have two women against one man, that's not considered like two witnesses against one, it's considered like one against one. Yeah. There you go. That's all. Yeah.
This is what I needed to see.
Whoa. Mr. Reese, back up.
Anyway, he's an old Shayashiv guy after whatever. I guess the island doesn't recognize him.
My old Charusa in your father's share.
There you go. Anyways, yeah, fine. Weiter. So Tricha get mizeh. So then we said that she needs a get from both, right? So now the obvious question is, why do you need a get from both? If the first marriage was a proper marriage, and the second marriage ends up being an improper marriage because the husband was really alive, so why do you need a get from the second one? The marriage was no good, right? The marriage is no good. Why do you need a get from the second husband? So Bishlam Rishon, the Gemara says, Tipa get. So from the first husband, we understand you need a get because they had a proper marriage. And why do you need a get from the second? Znus ba'almahu. It was a znus ba'alma, right? The second husband, even though they got married properly, but Lamaisa ended up being znus. They weren't allowed to get married. So Amarav Huna, it's a gezerah because the people are going to see this and they can say, 1 second. This lady is married to this guy, husband number 2, and now she's walking scot-free and going back to husband number 1. They don't realize that husband number 1 never divorced her. They're going to think, okay, she's just going back to her original husband without any get. So this one gets divorced, and then she goes and marries somebody else. Then people are going to say, oh, an Eishes Ish doesn't need a get. This lady went back to original husband without getting a get from the second husband. So that's all it is a gezerah. Really, yes, Enochanami, she does not need a get. So the Gemara says, in the next Mishnah, right? The Ketani that it says, Amru la meis balech, if they told her, meaning an Eid Echad said, your husband died, in Iskacha, and she got engaged. She got engaged, not married. What do you want to say?
I don't want to bring up a sore issue. How did Rabbi Greenblatt overcome this time in the Gemara?
What do you mean by nixing the first that marriage?
How does the husband go out without? She went out without a get. She's married to the guy for 10 years.
I don't know. I hear that could be part of the problem. I don't know. I don't know the sugi well enough. But we're
Okay,
gonna get this.
fine,
We're gonna get to
fine.
something like that soon.
Fine.
Anyway, so then the next case in the Mishnah is Amrullah Meis Bailich V'Niskadsha. If the Eid Echad said the husband died, V'Niskadsha, and she got engaged, not married. Our Mishnah is talking about married. The next case in the Mishnah is they got engaged. And then her husband came. Mutaris Lachsalai, she can go back to the original one, right? Because she never slept with the guy. She was only engaged. Hasam Nami, so there too. Name of Kiddush. People watching this are going to say, "Oh, she got married. She got engaged. Engagement, by the way, requires a get, right?" But we're saying she doesn't need a get. We're going to say that an Eishas Ish can go out without a get. So Gemara's answers la'olam ba'y get. The Gemara is going to change their mind on this in a minute, but right now the Gemara is saying la'olam ba'y get. No, she needs a get. Now you have a different issue. So let's say Taka, she does get a get. Fine. Now she goes back to her first husband. Everybody's going to think it's machzor grushase, right? We know the din is a man divorces a woman. She goes and marries somebody else. She's not allowed to go back to original husband. So here, even if they give a get, you're going to have this problem. So Gemara answers, could Rav Yossi ben Kifa? No, he's going according to Rav Yossi ben Kifa. Machzor grushasai is only not allowed if they actually got married. But if they just got engaged, then she's allowed to go back to her first husband. Meaning it's a din in not in marriage, it's a din in bia. If she never slept with the second husband, then she's allowed to go back to original husband. So I'm going to ask, some of the Katani Seifa, but the Seifa there says that Afal P, on Talmud Aleph now, Afal P, Shenosan La Achran get, even if the second guy gives her a get, like Pasal Mina Kahuna, she's not Pasal from Kahuna. Why? Meaning normally a woman who gets a get is Pasal to marry a kohen, right? But we're saying here we require her to get a get, but she's not Pasal from the Kahuna. Why? Because the get's not a real get, right? The get's only there so that for Marasayan purposes, but she's not really getting a get. Well, so therefore she can marry a kohen, right? Mechlal. So we hear from this, the loy by a get. She doesn't need a get. The by a get, if she need a get, am I like possible in a kahuna? Why is she not possible from the kahuna? Meaning if you're saying that it's a real get, then she's possible from the kahuna. If it's not a real get, then what's the problem? So Ella, so now Gemara changes. Like we said, anytime the Gemara says the word Ella, it's a new teretz, right? Ella, Seifa. Now we're back to the original that she does not get it. She does not need a get. If she gets married, al pi eid echad, and she gets engaged to somebody else, she does not need a get. Ela seifa amri kedushay toz havi. Here you go. Kedushay toz. It's talking about where she got engaged by mistake, right? Meaning she made a tanai that she's gonna get married if if the Mets win, right? And then the Mets didn't win, so Mamela, she doesn't have to. That's what people are gonna say. They're just gonna say it was a mistaken kiddushin and finished. So there's gonna be no marasayim. So the Gemara says, Reisha Nami, I mean, this was good. So when she got married to somebody, they'll also say the same thing. Oh, the reason why she went back to her original husband is because they made it tonight that they're getting married on Kadesh and the Mets win the World Series. The Mets didn't win the World Series, so she goes back to her original husband. That's what people are going to think. So the Gemara answers, Kansu Rabbanon. Rabbanon made a knas because she should have been looked into it more. So Seifa Namilik. So the Seifa also, she got engaged to a man based on an Eid Echad. So then why they should have given her a knas too? So my answer is Reisha of the Isura. Now the Reisha, she actually did an Isser because she slept with the guy, she got married to him. So Kansua, that's why they gave her a knas. Seifa, but in the Seifa, the Loy of the Isura, where she didn't do an Isser, like Kansua Rabbanon, the Rabbanon did not make a knas. Okay, so again, Maskonas Advarim is that, and we'll see this in the next mission, but when she gets engaged, al pi eid echad, and then the husband comes marching in, she does not need a get. She can go straight back to her husband, right? And there's no matter sign because we're going to think that they made just the kedusha toys, and that's it. Fine. Then the Gemara continues. The Mishnah continues, says, "Ain lo kesuba." She doesn't get a kesuba, right? She doesn't get a kesuba from either husband. My timer. What's the reason? Why doesn't she get a kesuba? My timer. It's kinil rabbanon kesuba. Why were the rabbanon mistaken this whole din of a kesuba? Kesuba is that if the husband dies or the husband gives a get, he has to pay her whatever amount of money, 200 zuz, right? So the reason is kadesh shaloi take kalabein of loitzia. Because if you're not going to make the men pay, let's say nowadays it's 20 grand. If you're not going to make him pay her 20 grand, men are just going to marry women and just divorce them, right? Whenever they want. And then the women are going to be left high and dry. So therefore we charge them. So that's why we have a ksuba. Here, we want to make her we want him to divorce her because she messed up. She married two husbands, even though it was a mistake, but we want him to get divorced. So we say there's going to be no ksuba. So he has no problem. He has no problem divorcing her, right? If we're going to make him pay the ksuba, he may not want to divorce her because it's going to cost him 20 grand. So we say, don't pay the ksuba so you can divorce him. Fine. Also, she doesn't get in payers. She doesn't get fruit. She doesn't get clothing, and she doesn't get the worn out clothing that I want to tonight ksuba because the Gemara says that's all tanai in the kesuba, meaning that's not part of the actual kesuba. That's tanaim that you make between the husband and wife who's going to take care of her. But since it goes under the umbrella of kesuba, so she doesn't get it either. Not lemizeh, but if she did take money from either husband, she has to give it back. So when it says pshita, she has to give it back. Why would you think otherwise? Since if she did grab it, since really she had rights to it, you don't take it back from her. Kamash Milan, that we take it away from her. Fine. Now this next sugya here is very gishmak. We get into mamish, the Rabbanon's deraises. At what point the Rabbanon have the power to eliminate deraises, right? So it starts with a Vlad Mamzer, because first it starts with some truma, and then it gets into the Vlad Mamzer, and then it goes to the next two Vlad about do the Rabbanon have the koyach to eliminate something from the Torah or not, which obviously will end up with lulav and esrog and shofar that the Chum say not to take it. So first the Gemara starts with a case.
Which is the Machlokes of Shavuos. If it's being like or something of the Torah. That was the Machlokes Bayas and the Chacham.
Okay, I hear.
We had this. We had that already. Brachas even when the Kadosh Baruch Hu gave us when we make the zmanim that we tell him when to come. Have the proper way to say that.
What? I don't know. Yeah, but I'm sure. Yeah, we had the sugyas and brachas. Yeah, but this is a major sugya here. So let's see. So Tananos, and we learned over there in the Mishnah. Ain tarmin min tamei al atar. You're not allowed to take truma from a tamei onto a tar. Meaning, a guy has a good idea. He has this truma he has grains at a tamei, and he has grains at a tar. Yisrael. He said, I got a brilliant idea. The stuff is tamei. I might as well give that to the kohen. Right, and he'll use it for firewood or something, whatever it is. It's worth a lot less. So the Mishnah said that you can't do that. You cannot give that the truma, right? Truma, let's say you're giving a 50th, right? You're giving 5%. Right, he's giving 5% of it. So he said, I'm going to give the truma tamei on the truma tahor, and that'd be great. So we say, no, you're not allowed to do that. Vim taram, and let's say he did do it. So b'shogeg, if he did it by mistake,
why didn't you just give him one piece of barley? Why does he have to get a whole big to show he's a talent? He thinks he's a Talmid Chacham. What's the big deal?
Right. I don't know. He's trying to show his Talmud. He's just trying to be cheap.
It's only one he has to give. What does he have to give him? One or chitach is pater zakri, right? So he gives him one piece of wheat, and that's it. And go home, go weiter.
Yes, but I don't know. Maybe he decides he wants to look generous.
Okay, fine.
But anyway, so whatever it is, say if he did it b'shaygig, truma, say truma, his truma is a truma, right? He didn't know that it was tamei, so then it does work with the but b'mezid, let's say he does it on purpose, like also like klum, he did nothing, right? Now, my loy also klum. What does it mean he did nothing? Because basically, before we go weiter, just to give it as a hakdama, what does it mean he didn't do anything? Does that mean that the truma he separated is not considered truma? Or does it mean that the stuff he separated from, meaning the stuff that's left in his storage house, that's considered tevel, that's unseparated, or is one truma and one not? So that's a machlokes, right? So the loy also klum kol ikar means he did nothing. Tafilu ahi griva, that even that measure of the tamei that was made into truma, that also becomes tevel, meaning he has to totally start from scratch. Both ends did nothing. That's Rav Chisda. From Nasan Rav Yoshi Amar loy also klum the sakenes shirayim. He didn't do anything to fix the shirayim, meaning the stuff that he didn't give to the kohen, that was tevel. That has to be re-trumad. But aval truma havi, but the truma that was given to the kohen, that has the kedusha of truma. Right? So Machlokes Rav Chisda says you have to restart the whole thing. Even the truma, this is going to be the point of the Gemara. Even the truma that midaraisa is considered truma is not truma. Meaning the midaraisa, the truma is a truma. The Torah didn't say you give bad against good and you have to, you can't do this shtick. It's the Rabbanan that said don't do the shtick. Right? So let's see. So Rav Chisda didn't want to say Rav Yoshi, and he says you have to do the whole thing from scratch. The Amrit Havi Truma, because if you say it is Truma, Zirin de Pasha V'loy Mafresh. Sometimes the guy who did it is going to be a Pasheya, and he's not going to be Mafresh again. We're telling this guy who's amazed, right? We're telling this guy who's amazed that he has to take Truma again, right? He says you're not going to do it, right? He says, I did it already. What, these rabbis are crazy. Then I make me take Truma again, so he's not going to do it. So that's why he said that the whole thing is no good. So what I asks, why is this different than a case if somebody took Truma for cucumbers, v'nimtza mara, and then he found it later, he found it to be bitter. He was a shaygig. He didn't realize that he took bad vegetables and used it as truma for the good vegetables. Meaning he gave the kohen lousy vegetables. Avatiach, right, as melons. When we didn't say saruch and saruach, and then he found it to be decayed. Truma, v'yasa v'yitroi. It's truma. Then, meaning these things are considered truma. What the kohen got, the lousy cucumbers and the lousy melons, it's still considered truma. V'yasa v'yitroi, but the guy has to give truma again, right? So the Gemara, so why does he have to give truma again, according to Rav Chisda? So what it says, why does he have to? Why is it even considered truma? So when I answer shaygig on mezid karam, is you're asking a kasha from shaygig on mezid. Shaygig loyavari surah. When he was a shaygig, he didn't do an isser, right? So since he didn't, he didn't think he did an isser, right? So since he didn't think he did an isser, you tell him, by the way, buddy, you made a mistake. You gave lousy truma. So he's going to say, I didn't realize I made a mistake. I'll give the kohen another truma. But mazid, but if he already did this whole thing on purpose, then ka'avadi surah, then he did an isser. Since he did an isser, he's not from the erlich of people here, so we're afraid he's not going to give it again. Saying we're asked, Rami shaygig, ask a stira from one case of shaygig to another. Here, by Tuma, it said his truma is a truma, and Hasam, Katani, and over there by the spoiled, truma v'yasa v'yitrim, it says it's truma, right? But he has to give another truma. So which one is it? So you say Hasam shaygig karav lemezid. So here it gets a little dicey. Right? He's a shaygig, but he's karav to being mazid. Why? The boy lemitame, because he should have tasted it. Before you give truma to a kohen, taste the food, make sure it's not spoiled. Right? But he didn't do that, so he's still a shaygig, but it's an irresponsible. He's irresponsible. So since he's irresponsible, he has to give it again. Right? But
how is he allowed to taste it?
Oh, very good. So how does he taste it? How can he taste it? Doesn't have truma taken off yet. So Toisus, half a line Toisus. We like those Toisus, right? Toisus, 5 lines off from the bottom, says he takes a mashahu off of it, right? In order that he should taste it, and then that's fine. meaning he separates a slight amount, takes off the truma from that, tastes it, and then that's what he should have done. Yeah, fine. But by tumah, how's he supposed to know? Tumah he should have also, but he can't. What are you going to do? Taste it? You can't taste whether it's tumah. He found
Maybe
out
he's
later.
Maybe he's a rebbe.
And he tasted truma?
Taste the tumah.
Oh, you could be. Yeah, maybe he had a smartphone, so he knew the taste. Anyway, yeah, fine. So then he was a Barami Mezid Amazid. Why don't you ask the case of on purpose? Here by Tumah, it said if he did it on purpose, he did nothing. Hasam Tanan, but the Mishnah there says in Tanai, Hatayrim Mishain Nakav al Nakav. Oh, this is actually Shemitah Sugya too. So you have two types of flower pots you can grow produce in. You have a flower pot with a hole in it, flower pot without a hole in it. A flower pot with a hole in it is chayiv and trumas and maisers and shmita midaraisa. A flower pot without a hole is only midarabanan. So let's say he grew stuff in a flower pot with a hole and grew stuff in a flower pot without a hole, right? So and then he gives truma from the daraisa onto the darabanan. I'm sorry, here he gave truma from the darabanan on the daraisa. He gave the truma from stuff that was grown in a flower pot that had no hole on truma that had a hole. So it's considered truma v'yasa v'yitrim, but he has to take off truma again because it wasn't chayiv in truma minat Torah. So why? So how come there he has to take off truma again? So what answers, but trei man itzayis, if it's two different pots, he'll listen. Meaning if you tell him, oh, by the way, you gave off truma from this pot, but that pot you didn't give off truma because it's a different din, because it's a derabanan versus deraisa. So he'll listen. He says he can understand that. But if it's from one pot, he says to himself, "What are these rabbis making me crazy? I gave to the kohen already. That's enough." Right? So v'chad mana in one pot loitzais, he's not going to listen. So basically, it comes out according to Rav Chisda. There's many different levels of when a person is a shoygig or giving bad food to the kohen. You have a guy who's a shoygig. You have a guy who's a mazid, you have a guy who's carved to a mazid, and then you have a guy who messed up with two different pots. Fine. Now the Gemara goes according that's Shakavatai according to Rav Chisda. Now the Gemara has a Shakavatai according to Rav Nasim Rav Aishia, who says that this food is truma, but he has to go retake off truma. So Rav Nasim Rav Aishia, he did nothing. The sake and shirayim, right? He did nothing to fix what was left over. That wasn't made truma. Well, truma havi, but the stuff that he separated was truma on tamei beis now. My shna mehod etnan. Why is it different? This that we learned in the Mishnah and tamei over there. If he takes truma from a pot that has a hole in it, which means it's chayiv and truma daraisa, al she'ein nakav on a pot that does not have a hole, truma say truma. So his truma is a truma. It's considered truma, but he's not allowed to eat it until they take off truma on this truma from someplace else. So how come there they have to do that? So when I answer Shani midaraisa truma ma'ayasi kederav really midaraisa, the truma by truma tamei is really considered truma midaraisa. How do you know that somebody who takes truma from bad on good? Truma say truma, meaning we said you're not allowed to do truma from bad onto good. But how do you know that it is? And you're not going to get a chet when you separate the chelba means the best from it. And if it's not kaddish, so how do you know that you're going to be getting a chet? Right? Meaning it's not kaddish. Meaning if you can't take off lousy truma on good grain and give it to the kohen, so then how can you call it doing a chet? Right? You didn't even do anything. So by the Gemara, by the pasuk saying it's not a chet, I mean, if it is a chet, then by saying that it is a chet, that means your truma is a truma. It's just not great. So mikan the terminal so that shows you that if you give truma from bad grains on nice grains and you're trying to do a scam, truma say truma, your truma is a truma. Now, okay, so that's the harder part of the sugya of truma. That fine. Now the Gemara gets to the meat of the whole sugya. It goes for another blot and a half. So Amalei Rabbi Rav Chisda. I wish it wasn't in a rush. It would be Kishmaka sugya. Amalei Rabbi Rav Chisda. L'didachta amrit lo yosef aloi klum kol ikar. According to you, who says you did nothing. The truma that you separated is no good, and the stuff you separated from is no good. Even that separation that you gave to the kohen is considered tevel. My timer. Why? Because you're afraid that if you don't tell him that, he's not going to be mafresh meiser. He's not going to be mafresh truma. And if you don't tell him that the stuff he gave to the kohen is no good, and he only has to separate the stuff that was in his yard again, he has to separate it again, he's not going to listen. So because he's not going to listen, we said that the truma, real truma that's in the kohen's hands is not truma. Meaning in a Torah, what was given to the kohen is truma. And now we're saying it's not truma. Mi'ika midi, can it be? That's also a plug for the abortion. That's one of the big things in the abortion sugya is the klal mi'ika midi, right? Mi'ika midi, could it be? According to the Torah, this thing is truma. And because perhaps he might not give truma again, the Rabbanan say, by the way, that's not truma anymore. It's chulin. How could you do that? Can Bezdin make a tanai and uproot something that's in the Torah? He says, now this is how we got into this whole sugi in the first place. And you don't believe that the Rabbanon can uproot something in the Torah, but Tanan in our Mishnah, we said, what's the case? Hablad mamzer mizeh mizeh. In the case where she got married because the husband never came back, right? And then she married, and then the husband came back, and then she went back to the first husband, and she had a kid. So we're saying that all the kids would be mamzer. Mizeh mizeh bishlam and bisheni mamzer. So we understand from the second husband it's a mamzer because she should not have gotten married. She was really an Eshes Ish. Fine. Elamirisha namai, but for the first husband, why is it a mamzer? Ishtahu, right? It's shehi. She's a wife. Yisrael Maliyahu, and he's a regular Yisrael, not a mamzer. And now, what are you doing by saying that the kids from the first husband are mamzerim? Because you're in labor mamzeres. Now, what you basically said is that the kids that when she went back to the first husband, that the kids coming from that first husband, midrabanan are mamzer. So basically what you're saying is that the kid can go marry a mamzer. How can you say that? Torah, the kid can marry Yisrael. You're saying that the Rabbanan made a knas on her that the kid's a mamzer. How can you do that? So you see that you yourself are also holding in our Mishnah that the Rabbanan have the power to overrule something from the Torah. When it says that the kid is a mamzer, what it meant is that the kid is not a mamzer. The kid is not allowed to marry a mamzer. That's what it means. So Gemara says, the
kid's not allowed to marry anyone?
That's exactly right. The kid can't marry anybody. That's the next line. The kid is not allowed to marry a mamzer because he's a Yisrael. But my Karli mamzer, and why are you calling him a mamzer? Because we don't let him marry a Bas Yisrael either. Right? This kid can't marry a Bas Yisrael, and it's a knas. So basically, the kids from this marriage are stuck. They can't marry a mamzer. They can't marry. They're worse off than mamzer.
They could marry a ger, maybe, right?
Can they marry a ger?
Isn't that how you get rid of mamzeres? Moms are married.
You marry an eved. You marry an eved.
An
Can
eved.
you marry an eved?
Maybe
I don't know if you can marry an eved because he's a Yisrael. He's a Yisrael.
He's a mamzer.
He's not a mamzer. He's a mamzer midrabanan. You're right. L'chari can marry a ger. Can he marry a ger? No, because the ger is a regular Yisrael. I don't know. It's a good question. It's a good question. Okay, just let's do a little more. Now the Gemara is going to go through all sorts of cases. So now there's another case here of Shalach Le. What time is the early Shabbos? Anybody know?
I have mincha 6.
I think 6:30. Yeah.
Okay, so we go a little more. So fine. So Shalach Le of Chistel Rabba B'Yadro Acha Bar Huna. Bein Bezdin Masan Lakar Dover in the Torah. Bezdin cannot be oker something to the Torah. But Tani, we learned the Brayso. Me'emasai Odom Yorish is Ishtoi Ketana. Let's say a guy marries a Ketana. Again, we're talking about our good old case where a girl loses her father and her brothers and her mother marry her off. So she has the option to do miyun at age 12 and say she doesn't want to be married to him, right? But what happens if, let's say she dies, So who gets the Yerusha? So the husband should get the Yerusha, right? I mean, he's married to her. But how do you know that she wasn't planning on doing Miyah? Right, let's say they got married at age 10. Age 11, the girl died, right? And now the husband wants the Yarshin. Yeah, but how do you know that at 11 and a half, if this girl would have been alive, she wouldn't have divorced us? She has a right to just say the marriage is not a marriage. So what can you do? So at what point can he Yarshin her? So when she stands up to her height, which Rashi just means when she gets to 12 years old and she hits puberty, which Tosfos says on that. How can Rashi mean when she becomes like bas mitzvah? Doesn't it just say when she gets to be bas mitzvah, like it says in the rest of Shas? So Tosfos says it doesn't mean bas mitzvah. Tosfos, the word in Tosfos b'kaimasa says it doesn't mean bas mitzvah. It just means when she starts looking more mature. Once she starts looking more mature, then he could yarshin her, right?
Why did Tosfos ask that? According to Rashi, Beis Shammai is saying never. He can never be Yerush until she's not Memaim.
Right, it's essentially what he's saying. Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Beis Shammai is basically saying he can't yashin her until she was at least 12, in which case she's a
There's no
valid
option
wife.
for me anymore.
Valid wife, yeah. I think that's essentially what Beis Shammai is saying. Right, but the Machlokes Rashi Tosfos is just what is the translation of tamei mekaimasa. Right, yeah, that's, by the way, that's the shita with the Chazon Ish. Let's at least bring it to something practical. So the Mishnah Berurah says you can't touch a girl once she hits the age of 3. Right? The Chazon Ish, I think it's a Mishnah Berurah that says it. The Chazon Ish says like age 6, 7, maybe even later, only once they start looking a little bit more like not like little kids. Right? So that's what Tosfos says it means here. Once she gets into chuppah. Right? But now, what does it mean? Chuppah means where the katana actually got married. Even though she can do miyun after chuppah also, but Beis Hillel is assuming that if she did chuppah, if she could just got engaged, okay, maybe she'll break the engagement. Once she did chuppah, Beis Hillel is assuming she's in it for the long run. So then he could yashin her. When they have bia, which exactly why that's even the Beis Hillel, we'll see. V'yarsha, and he can yashin her, umatamala, if she's a kohen, if he's a kohen, he could come tamei to her, v'chelas beginay truma, and she could start eating truma. Right? So Beis Shammai says when she either means when she hits 12 according to Rashi, or when she starts looking more mature, even though she didn't go into chuppah. Right? Right? So, but the Torah holds that you can. So that's the kasha. Meaning, according to the Torah, the husband cannot become tamei to her until she goes to chuppah. And here Beis Shammai is saying that even without chuppah. So you see that it's a case where the Rabbanon is uprooting a deraisa. So the Gemara answers, what it means is once she gets a little bit mature, and then she goes to the chuppah. This is what Beis Shammai told Beis Hillel. The kamrisu mishatakonis l'chuppah. This that you said, that he can yarshin his wife once they have chuppah. If she's mature before the chuppah, then chuppah helps. And if not, then chuppah does not help. Fine. Rabbi Eliezer shita is that he only starts yashing the wife once they have bia. He said that any ma'isa bia from a katana is nothing, which we're going to see later on. So what answers, what he meant is once she gets older and she's oil, whatever it is, from this whole sugi, katani mias, yarsha, we learned that he yarshins her. The father yarshins her, right? Because she's not married. And the Rabbanon are saying that the husband yarshins her.
There is no av here.
What?
There is no av. We're talking about miyun. There's no av.
Correct. But right, so it means the father's the yarshim of the father. Meaning midaraisa, the yarshim of the father. You're right. The midaraisa, the father yarshin. So therefore, basically, her brothers should yarshin. Here we go. We got a big fight brewing over here, right? You got the brothers saying that midaraisa we get the money, and the Rabbanon are saying no, the husband gets the money, right? But how can the Rabbanon come along and uproot the deraisa? So the Gemara says the greatest answer, right? Hefker Bezdin Haya Hefker. Bezdin can make anything Hefker, right? Domer of Yitzchak, Minayin Shehefker Bezdin Haya Hefker. How do you know that Bezdin could basically say that her belongings become Hefker? It doesn't even go to her, and therefore Bezdin can say it goes to whoever they want, and they're not going against the Torah. Shenemar Kol Asher Lo Yavei LeShloisha Yomim Ba'atzas Asarim Vaskenim. That anybody who doesn't come for 3 days to the Zakenim, Yecharam Kol Rechushay V'hu Yavda Mikol Agal, and they're gonna have a chayrim on all their belongings, and he's going to be separated. He's going to go into chayrim. Right? This is talking about Ezra, that when Ezra wanted to get all the Yidden to divorce their wives. So basically what he said is, if you guys don't get away from your non-Jewish wives, we're just taking all your money and making it hefker. So you see, Bezdin has the koyach to make things hefker. Right? So they're not, basically the Gemara is being answering, the Gemara is not going against the Raisa. What it's saying is that Hefker, Bezdin, Hefker, Memela, they can do whatever they want. You learn it out. Where do you get Bezdin, Hefker, Bezdin, Hefker from here? That they gave out inheritance to everybody. What does the Roshim, the heads, have to do with the fathers? Just like a father can give to his kids whatever he wants in a Yerusha. So too the heads of Klal Yisrael were able to give out land in Eretz Yisrael to whoever they wanted, right? So then the Gemara says, he's allowed to become tamei tor. Right? Midaraisa, her father is allowed to become tamei, right? Meaning he's the only kohen. That if she's single, her father becomes tamei tor. And with the Rabbanon, mitamei Baal, and the Rabbanon is saying that the Baal can do it. So how can they say that? Because she's considered a mace mitzvah. And we know a kohen can become tamei to a mace mitzvah. So Gemara says, "Me have a mace mitzvah. She's a mace mitzvah. Tanya is a mace mitzvah. What's considered a mace mitzvah? Kol shein like koivrin. She doesn't have anybody to bury. She have to bury her. But if you can call somebody and people are going to answer, then ain't a mace mitzvah. That's not a mace mitzvah. So of course, here she has relatives. Why would you say she's a mace mitzvah? That a kohen can become tamei tor? There's a very interesting teretz here. Since the lo yarsi, since the relatives didn't inherit her, karya v'lo anula. So she calls and they don't answer because they're ticked off. They were really supposed to yashin her siblings. They're not yashining her as the Rabban and say the husband yashins her. So since the husband yashin her and the relatives didn't, so therefore she's not allowed to. She's a mace mitzvah, and therefore the kohen can become tamei tor. So Gemara says vaychelas begin a truma, and she's allowed to eat truma.
Some kind of chutzpah.
Yeah.
They married her off, but now they're saying, "Oh no, we don't want her married. We want her
correct
as if she's not married."
Yeah, right. So
they have a backwards migu against them.
Correct. Yeah. So Gemara says vaychelas begin a truma. She's eating truma, so that she's really not allowed to eat truma. So how can the Rabbanan say she's allowed to eat truma? But truma derabbanon, we're talking about she's allowed to eat truma derabbanon, but enochanami truma deraisa she's not allowed to eat, right? Okay, so now the Gemara is going to continue from truma, trying to prove that the Rabbanon have a koyach to uproot deraisa. But I guess we'll stop here. So the Olam should have themselves a fine Shabbos, a fine Yom Tiv, and we'll see some of the Olam over Shabbos and Yom Tiv, and some we won't. Reb Rafe, enjoy Florida, and yeah.
Thank you.
Aaron, enjoy Memphis.
Shabbos, good Yom Tov.
What time's Daf Matzi Yom Tov? 10:30.
What?
10 o'clock.
What's the Yom Tov?
No. Didn't we say no past 10?
No, we're doing 10 to 10. 10 to 10. Do it 10 to 10.
Yom Tov, Shabbos, thank you.
Is it open? Okay, good Shabbos.
Good Shabbos. Have a good
Shabbos, good Yom Tov.
Shabbos, good Yom Tov, everyone. Shkoyach.